Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Well, welcome, folks, to the WorryFree Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and full-time fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today and for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to cover something I call the 4 pillars to a perfect retirement plan for savers, and why so many savers worry about retirement who do not utilize these 4 pillars with advisors. But before we get started, let me introduce 2 young lads who spend a great deal of time each week to make this show perfect for our viewers and listeners. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, when you think of the word perfect, a perfect retirement, what comes to mind? Now think about it a minute. Okay, you got that perfect vision of retirement locked in? Well, how about this for starters? The perfect retirement plan is one that takes the worry out of money for the rest of your life. Sound a little too good to be true? Well, as you're about to discover, if you have an advisor that adheres to these 4 pillars, it is possible to be worry-free in retirement and, yes, use and enjoy the money you have saved without the fear of one day running out of it. So how do we at Tony Walker Financial keep the worry out of your retirement? Well, let's start with these 4 key pillars, things that I have learned in working for over 40 years with more than 20,000 savers and personally orchestrating over 5,000 written game plans. First, it's being organized with your finances, or as the old saying goes, getting your financial house in order. This very idea of first getting things organized before going into retirement will be the topic of today's show. The second pillar to a perfect retirement is simplify. That's right, folks. If you make this stuff too complicated and invest in things you do not understand, your life and your money will get complicated for sure. Pillar number 3, orchestrate. Now, what I mean by this is you need someone at the helm who is experienced in both retirement planning and the various financial tools and strategies that you will need to meet the changes that are going to come your way. So yes, the advisor in whom you trust with your life savings will be required to orchestrate the plan over time. And finally, the 4th pillar to a perfect retirement is facilitate. That being the idea of bringing in other professionals who can follow the original game plan and assist you with other retirement needs that the advisor may not provide. Oh, speaking of other professionals that offer services to retirees that we at Tony Walker Financial do not provide, I thought since we were on the topic of being organized and getting your house in order, I would bring in a household organizational specialist, not to talk about your money, but rather what she and her company have learned in helping retirees and families of loved ones who have passed away in getting their personal effects organized. So with that said, with us via Zoom in the studio is Miss Kirsty Buckley, who just happens to own a company in Louisville, Kentucky called Declutter Lover. Well, good morning, Kirsty.
Good morning.
And it's so funny how we met. We've never met before this Zoom call, correct?
Correct.
So I was working on this show about getting organized, and I thought, what'd be cool to get somebody in the Louisville area that specializes in organizing household contents. Didn't know who to contact. I go out to the mailbox this past weekend, and here's this cool flyer we got from you from Declutter Lover. So first of all, tell us exactly what you do for a living.
Yes, so we have a whole home organizational company. I have 5 ladies who work with me, and we will take your house from cluttered, disorganized to fully functional with systems set in place. We do anything from whole house organization, if you've been living there for a while, or if you've just moved in, and we set systems in place so that your new home can be completely fresh and new for you. We also do some estate sale planning. So we lay it all out, declutter everything, and stage it for the estate sale to happen.
You'll think this is funny. Years ago in the Bowling Green office, I had a lady offer to do some decluttering in the office, and I said, sure, come by and give me a quote. Real nice young lady. She walked around, took pictures. She said, I'll check back within a week or so. I heard the door ring as she left. Shortly thereafter, the door rang again, and then it rang again, and I checked with my assistant. I said, who was that? And said, that was the declutter expert. And I said, what'd she want? She said, well, she left her keys in here and she couldn't find them. So, okay, back to a serious note. You know, we work with a lot of retirees, even those who have lost loved ones. Why is it so important for people in retirement to consider getting organized and decluttered?
So I can give you an example of a client that we recently worked with. She had both of her parents passed away, and she had lived in that house when she was a child, and her parents had lived in that house for 60 years. So there were 60 years of relics and emotional attachment to all of these items. So we came in, 2 organizers over 3 weeks' time, and we helped her go through every single item in the house. We staged the house for the estate sale planner. And at the end, she had her items that she was taking back to her house. And then we were able to leave the house in a good state for the estate sale planner to finally come through and plan the estate sale.
So more to the story is better to get organized now rather than later, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, Kirsty, thank you for your work and helping so many people, and thank you for being on the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, speaking of getting organized, when we return, we're going to be talking to 2 of our staff members in Bowling Green, Kentucky, about the organizational structure we have in place for our clients, both from the income planning department and someone from our tax planning department. Stay tuned. This is the Worry-Free Retirement, and I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back.
This Tony Walker Financial 5-Star Review comes to us from James and Anne Marie. While watching one of Tony's videos, I got out my 12-year-old Worry-Free Retirement binder given to me by Tony at your Bowling Green office. I am always amazed at all the planning and work Tony provides to smaller clients like me. All this planning and advice is just as valuable today as it was 12 years ago. If you'd like to read more of our 5-star reviews, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Want to know what savers were saying right before the stock market crash of 2008?
At our age, we just don't want to be on the roller coaster of the stock market anymore.
I'm not satisfied with my mutual funds at all.
When you work as hard as you have worked, you do want to be able to start enjoying a little bit of that money.
Stop putting your money at risk when you don't have to. Learn how to safeguard more of your retirement savings by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Our topic of getting organized. We were very flattered and appreciative to get this recent review from a prospective client who became a client of Tony Walker Financial. I want to read this to you. This is from Ron, and he said, very skeptical when I first met with Tony. The first meeting was to get information and to schedule a second meeting to present the plan. During the second meeting, Tony went through the plan very quickly but thoroughly. At this point, I'm waiting for the hard sale to go with them, but that didn't happen. Instead, Tony handed me the plan, said take it home and read it and call with any questions. Still skeptical, I love this part, I made a list of concerns and questions and called Tony, and of course he was not available at the time, and the receptionist said he would call at 1 o'clock that day, and he would call me at that time if it would work for me. Not expecting a call, but to my surprise at 1 p.m. the phone rang and it was Tony. He took time to listen and answer all of my questions. This happened about 5 more times with no attempt to make a hard sale. So impressed with him and his staff, we made the decision to go with him. Best decision ever. And folks, the key here is with the staff. We have a wonderful staff, and there's so much more to Tony Walker than just Tony Walker. Two of those staff right now are going to talk about the organization behind Tony Walker. So right now, let's turn it over to our income planning specialist, Miss Lisa Allerkamp. Well, good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
And you know the topic of our conversation today, it's getting organized before putting a plan in place. Explain to our viewing audience and those on the radio, why is it so important that we get things organized before we even put a plan together, and the purpose of that game plan software we've devised?
Sure. When we're putting your game plan together, it's important for us to gather all the details up front because we're trying to create this game plan as accurate as possible. It's a great organizational tool for retirement, given the most accurate information. One of the best benefits of our game plan is it is client friendly. It's easy to read, easy to follow. We put all of your assets and income sources on one page, and then you can follow year by year to see which accounts we are recommending taking distributions from. But to create this plan as accurately as possible, we do need to gather the information up front just so we can customize the plan for each individual client to best meet their needs and their income needs.
Well, Lisa, thank you for all that you do in the income planning department. Now we got to get over in the essence of time over to TJ. So thank you for all you do. All right, next up on deck is our own TJ Reagan, who's in charge of our tax planning department in Bowling Green. Good morning, TJ.
Morning, Tony.
And one of the things we're talking about, TJ, is this idea of being organized. So there's lots of things we do in the tax planning department, but what have we done to organize all of these RMD issues we have for all of our clients?
Sure, Tony. So we have well over 1,000 clients that are RMD age or having to take RMDs from inherited IRAs. So what we do, we monitor each one of them. It's really a vast spreadsheet, and we go line by line, each item, each client, each account, and make sure the RMD is satisfied on each one of them. It's a tedious process. It takes a lot of time, but we start at the beginning of the year and we try to wrap up by the 1st of December. So
yeah, with over 1,000 people that have these RMD requirements and where to draw from, it's a great task that we provide for our clients. And we certainly appreciate everything you and Leanne Tinsley do in the income planning department and in the tax planning department. So thank you so much, TJ.
welcome, Tony.
Well, speaking of getting organized, this next client spotlight is someone that I've worked with over 12 years. And the importance of this spotlight, watch closely and listen closely, is their ability to see the organization of their income plan in making one of the most important decisions they'll ever make. Well, welcome to our client spotlight here at WorryFree Productions, and with us in the studio today is Brian and Anita Ashley. Ashleys, it is so good to see you. It's been several years, actually, but it is so good to see you, and thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Yes, Tony, thank you for inviting us. We're glad to be here.
You're welcome, and you've always been so encouraging to our firm. And I remember Aaron even came out to your house, did a little story on you back then, wasn't it?
I think it's been longer than that. I think, yes, he did. He came. And
I think it's closer to 12.
Yeah, let's go back in time. So if you remember, how did you first hear about Tony Walker Financial? Approximately how long ago was that?
It was 12 years ago come September, and we were just trying to figure out where we were in our long-term plan. We hadn't really done anything about saving except maxing our 401ks like the employers told you to do. My uncle recommended you to us because we wanted somebody to just look at, here's what we've got. Where are we? Do we need to be doing something different? Do we need to be doing this or that? Or what we expected was somebody to look at us and say, you people are crazy. You might retire when you're 90. But, and you remember you were at the hotel.
I remember that.
On Hurstburn Lane. And we
had that little tiny office right out the lobby there.
Little tiny office. So we came and we had all our stuff together for you. And we had a very nice visit with you. And you asked us a lot of questions about what we wanted, what our desires were, and what our goals were. And then we came back a week later. We had asked you about when we could retire, and you turned that binder around to us, and I can see you right now. You said, folks, you can do this today. And at that time, we were impressed that you said that. But we got more impressed 4 days later. 4 days after we met with you, my company came out that I had worked for 42 years and announced a change to the retirement plan, to everything. And you had to retire by November 30th of that year.
Wow. See, I forgot all this. Yeah.
Tony, if we had not already been to see you, if you had not already laid out for us what that plan was and how that plan could work for us, we would have been petrified. I mean, we would have just gone, lost our minds, wouldn't we? You know, but man, when they did that, I just came home from work that night and I said, you know what? I'm not worried. Let's call Tony tomorrow, because we had already called you and said, we love the plan, said things have changed, and you set up an appointment for us. And I had to retire by November the 30th. We retired September the 13th.
Right.
Now, did you retire at the same time as well?
I just quit.
You said, I'm not letting her go by herself. I'm done too.
Well, I tell everybody, I say, she retired, I quit.
So now as you fast forward, and Brian, you may want to share, you've got some little health issues going on, but looking back over that time, how glad are you, or fortunate, or however you want to describe it, that you did go on and retire back then, now that you look back over those last 12 years?
Plus more time we got to spend together, because that was our main goal for retirement, was being able to spend time together, because we both had jobs that kept us busy.
Yeah.
But you know, if everybody knew about retirement, nobody would work. It has been the biggest blessing in our lives. And we just feel like, and I know you'll say it wasn't you, but we just feel like you were such a huge part of that, because we trusted you from the minute we met you in the hotel lobby.
And again, Brian, I kind of alluded to your health. You said health slipping a little bit, but again, knowing that you had all that time together, and now that health is a little more questionable than it was 12 years ago, how do you feel about taking that plunge and retiring, or quitting in your case 12 years ago?
Just feel much better about it, because at least we have a different perspective on how much time we have to spend together, what the quality of the time we get to spend together, as opposed to being frivolous, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah, now I know y'all's faith is very strong, but how do you look at life now, Nita? It's your stage now, and maybe even what you could share with the audience, that deep down maybe some people are wondering if I should retire early or keep working, and what would your perspective be to them?
First of all, to listen to the Holy Spirit, because the Spirit is going to lead you. We firmly believe that the Spirit led us to you at that time that He led us to you, and that it was to lay that plan out for us. So that would be my first thing, is pray about it, listen to the Holy Spirit, follow what you're being guided to do. And like you said about Brian's health, having that platform underneath us of your plan and knowing where we are, that just allows us to relax and just let God lead us where we're going, because we know that this is not something we did, and it's not even something you did. It's something God did for us, and we can just relax in His plan. And it's not always, everything's not sunshine and roses, but having this faith and the plan makes you able to deal with things as they come, you know, because you hear all of the nightmare stories about medical bills taking everything people have. And like Brian said, our plan has worked exactly like you told us it would, or better, every day for the last 13 years. I just wish we'd started earlier. But knowing that we've got this plan and that it's just solid. You know, it's just solid, and it's there every day. Every day we go to the mailbox.
Get your mailbox money.
Get my mailbox money.
Now, you do not have children, correct?
Correct.
But you've got some hobbies. Even, weren't you kind of, I want to say, a pretend gunslinger, but didn't you do shooting competitions and stuff?
We used to do a thing called cowboy action shooting, and it was competition shooting with 19th century weapons, dress like cowboy and act like cowboy and whatnot. And we did it together, and we enjoyed it because we could do the hobby together.
You know, speaking of cowboys, Brian, I don't know if you know this, but did you ever see the intro to the Bonanza show we did several years ago? Would you like to watch that?
Oh, sure.
Oh, let her roll, Aaron.
I don't know if you remember or not, but when we did all this, my company, I was the first one to get out of the retirement, the 401k.
From that company?
Central Bank.
So you were, what, 56, right, at the time?
Right. Well, 57.
57.
They didn't know how to do it. I called you. You were in Florida at the time. I thought you were in the office, but you were at Disney World at the time to say, help me here, Tony. They don't know how to get my money out to get it where it needs to be. And you got on the phone and got, I guess it was.
Might have been Connie at the time.
Probably
Yeah, it was Connie.
So I was in Florida, got Connie in line, and she obviously got it moved over.
Well, she walked them through it. But Central Bank had never, nobody had ever done what I was fixing to do.
That is hilarious.
So.
But then when you talked about staff, you answered that phone call. You were on vacation with your family. In the beginning, you were the only one that we knew and had met. But we came to know you as a man of faith, which gave us a lot of confidence as we grew to know you better. We had that platform to work from. I don't care what problem I've had, what issue I've had come up, question I've had. I call your office. I talk to Heather. We talk to Gina. Never gotten a pushback or why are you bothering us with this? It's always been open arms. You guys are the best.
Well, thank you so much for all of your years of allowing us to take care of your retirement needs and hopefully many more years to come. So thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 3,500 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. It is estimated that each day over 11,000 people will turn 65, which means a lot of advisors selling a lot of annuities. Don't get stuck in the wrong annuity. Get a second opinion from TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, 403b, thrift savings account, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 40 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
The theme of today's show is before ever trying to devise a plan to retire, one must first get one's financial house in order. In other words, before you can determine how much you can spend and how long the money might last, you must first get everything organized for someone like us, trained in the art of retirement planning, to put a plan together for you. That's because it is very difficult to know what you've got and what you might do with what you've got if what you've got is not organized in the first place. While there are many reasons people do not tackle the process of getting organized, I think the biggest culprit to putting this off is no sense of urgency to do so. And while it might be okay to put off organizing your garage, putting off organizing your financial affairs could be disastrous. Why? Well, according to the Bible, to put off doing something tomorrow that could easily be done today may not be in God's timing. Check it out in 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 1, where Isaiah the prophet says to Hezekiah, who apparently has put off getting his own house organized, this blunt assessment. Thus says the Lord, set your house in order, for you are about to die and will not recover. Sounds pretty gloom and doom, but friend, this message is as true gets, and in my humble opinion, not only applies to Hezekiah, but applies to anyone who can still fog a mirror. But it gets even worse when we think about dying and what happens to our stuff. Check this out. In Luke 12:20, where the rich man who has gleefully stored up treasure for the future, just has his number called by God, and now, much to his surprise, it's game over. This notion of not knowing when we might die and thus waiting too long to use and enjoy our money is the very reason I wrote this game-changing book on money and retirement called Live Well, Die Broke. The purpose of this book is a simple reminder that none of us are getting out of this thing alive, and none of us will be able to take our prized possessions with us. In other words, not only do we all die broke, but to Isaiah's point, it is not up to us as to when we breathe our last breath, but that's up to God. So again, I must ask, why in the world do we so easily put off doing tomorrow, which we know in our heart of hearts we could do today? Especially when it comes to getting our financial affairs organized so that someone like us can see when you can retire and how to remain worry-free in it. And here's another point. Why, given the seriousness of the decision to turn your life savings over to anybody, why would you give all of your money to a complete stranger, or worse yet, an advisor who is not trained in the art of retirement planning? Folks, turning over your money to an advisor in retirement is possibly the biggest and most important financial decision you're ever going to make. So why wouldn't you work with a firm who can first get you organized and then has this proprietary game plan to keep you organized? Well, if you do not have such an advisor you can trust right now, we need to talk, and we've made this so easy to do, and let me explain how to do it. Well, folks, we call this the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and it's an unusual proposition that we make to our prospective clients, where you and I, that's right, the owner of the company, are going to talk for about 10 minutes on the phone about your specific situation to see if we can help. And here's the good news. If we can help, if I think we can be of help to you, we're going to meet in person, myself, you, we're going to look at all of your information, get that stuff organized, and put it in our proprietary game plan for you to review. And best of all, this is absolutely free and comes to you at no obligation. So take advantage of what we call the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that little red button and we'll arrange that phone call. Internet not your thing? No problem. Call us 24/7. That number is 877-499-9255. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. Remember, next week it's part 2 of how to create the perfect retirement plan. But between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free and you make it a good one.